In 2020, the Melrose Police Department committed to begin the hard and uncomfortable work of confronting their implicit biases and institutional biases. Since that time, the percentage of arrests involving Black individuals has increased. There's also been an increase in the percent of arrests in which race is marked as unknown, a practice which could be masking even greater racial inequities in arrest. As mayor, what steps would you take to ensure that Melrose is not engaging in policing practices that perpetuate systemic racism? First, Ms. Hammer.
Great, thank you. Well, I went back to the 2-week search change and on page 41 found that our police department should be issuing annual reports and also reports on daily calls. In the city of Boston, we took a very bold step with our police department as a partner in making their data live so that we could see what was going on in our community in very safe ways, but also in ways that were very honest. So what are we even talking about here? We don't even know, without the data, we don't know which overrepresented groups are being impacted. But we finally need to determine where our system is problematic, but we have to do that together. And so I've put public health and safety together in thinking around how we do this equity work. We need to enhance crisis training and intervention for our first responders, increase access to mental health services to address underlying issues in the community. I would like to have them collaborate weekly on community cases that need preventative support. And I refer everyone to the Chelsea Hub model, where 25 agencies meet on a Thursday to work together to address situations for an integrated, proactive approach to actually help people. And then again, back to data transparency, ensure transparency in law enforcement activities and data sharing to foster, again, public trust, and to create intentional connections between our police department and our communities of color and our students specifically. When I was on the Lincoln PTO, I worked with our new police chief to be mindful of ways to build a connection between our Lincoln community and families and our police department. And we had a great response from the police chief, and we'll see how the work continues next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Madeira Solano.
Thank you. So this is an area that is probably one of the ones that is very sensitive. You know, in this country right now, we have a situation where a lot of police feel disrespected and unsupported. And meanwhile, we have a lot of members of the Black community who feel threatened, really at the most basic physical level, to even sometimes go out and drive through their own community. So this is something that we need to work to heal. And I think it's going to take a long time. Some of the things that we can do as mayor is to bring people together. Ms. Hammer mentioned the Chelsea model. It's an excellent model for building community and working across all departments and different community members, and not just for police work, but especially for substance abuse prevention and really addressing lots of areas of need in our community. This is the kind of thing that we're going to need to go out and do. We're going to need to continue these events like National Night Out that bring people together and increase community policing in ways that are not threatening and that bring people together. But I think it's going to take a long time and a lot of healing. In the meantime, we really have to look at our statistics. And as mayor, I would meet regularly with the chief of police to ask him to personally monitor our arrest practices. And I would also regularly review arrest statistics myself. And we certainly need to implement implicit bias training throughout the city, not just once, this has to be an ongoing process, and we have to review again continually our data and our practices and what's happening, and make sure that we are getting people talking to one another and moving past some of these inherent biases, and past some of these feelings of angst and animosity that people have towards one another in the community. It's going to take some time to do this. I'm certainly willing to work together to do this. And also, we have to look very carefully when we implement new laws and regulations in the city, to make sure that they are really reasonable and that they can be enforced, that we have the resources to enforce things on an equitable basis. If we don't, we probably shouldn't enact those laws, because there's probably a better chance than not that, due to inherent biases, that an implicit bias, that possibly they may not be enacted equally. So thank you. That tells me that I've gone over time.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Ms. Grigoritis.
Thank you. Between my tenure at the Attorney General's office and at MOVA, I've spent the better part of 2 decades working with enforcement at the state and local level. And obviously this is a challenge that is throughout policing in this community, in this country. So I just want to acknowledge that I have worked on behalf of the criminal legal system, which is a system that is grounded in historic discrimination. And I think what we need to do is a both and approach. We do need to be analyzing data, and then we also need to listen to the individual stories of those that have been accused of causing harm, of those that were harmed, officers that are responding to the situations in our community on the ground, of our police leadership, of our allied stakeholders in health and human services, and our part regional and state level. And I think we need to be looking to particularly POST, which is the new state agency overseeing peace officers, and to the Mass Police Training Committee to help us really think about best practices in training that we implement in Melrose in partnership with allied stakeholders. Thank you.